Welcome back to Trekyards, everyone. He is Commander Cock.
He is Captain Foley.
And today, this one might be a little bit longer. We've already done our first look at the Sabrerunner, which is the new ship that we got in the season finale of Season 4 of Lower Decks. Today, we're going to be doing a comparison with the Steamrunner and seeing the differences, because they are different ships.
And in-depth is the word. There's a lot to do here. There's a lot of angles, a lot of comparisons, and not just with the canon, but also with the canon. So, we're doubly canoning you. Might have two ends for once, Stuart. No, still one end. So here's the Sabre-runner. Is it just a Steamrunner? Yes, no, before we go into the whole thing. Is it just a Steamrunner with smaller windows?
I certainly thought it was a Steamrunner first time I saw it. Then I found out it was a Sabre-runner, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then when we looked at our first look, if you haven't checked out that video, go do so. Did they change the window size? I don't know. I haven't looked at the comparisons yet. We're going to do that now with you guys.
And of course, this was named and inspired a little bit by Fabio, because he was one of the top Eaglemoss creators who did a lot of the 3D builds, a lot of 3D conversions, and a lot of R&D work. He designed, worked with them to design the new Steamrunner class, which ends up being in Picard. So his model is actually canon as well. And this is not actually that version, which it could have been if they were going to literally use his legacy as a, name and design. But of course, they want a smaller version, so it's not actually his version, even though I know he's fond of this design that he did. So it's still, obviously, love and respect, although it's not just the one he did. But we're going to compare, Stuart. Here's the first shot, not just with Fabio's Star Trek Picard Alternate Universe canon version of the... So it is technically canon, but it's the Eaglemoss version designed for the magazine, but also the original ILM First Contact version, which is the canon of canon, but slightly less detailed because that was done, 15 years earlier for a movie for the background. But we have it. We're going to show it. We've done comparison renders. We know it's not the same class of ship. We know it's not the same scale. So this is about comparing what did they change in clearly the same aesthetic. Because it's not the same design. We're not calling them wrong. But we're saying what did they change. Right. Let's go.
Already, it's much different than I expected. And yeah, they did scale it down and change the windows. It gives a vibe of a smaller ship because of that window size. You look at the actual Steamrunner and you got the smaller windows implying a bigger ship. There have been changes, especially with the bridge module and the configuration of the escape pods. Like, there's so many changes that I never would have considered had we not done a comparison. So that's awesome.
Yes, it's definitely a... Oh, that's a Steamrunner. Oh, that's not a Steamrunner at all. Because, yeah, every single component part has been changed. And as we would do, change for scale, because now the RCS thrusters are radically bigger, because that's the scale relative to the size of the ship. Torpedo launchers, Fabio did include them in the front, which I didn't even realise were there. Now they're up higher, they're much bigger. The bridge and the windows, and yeah, it's so cleverly the exact same, but so cleverly not at all the same. And even, the Bassards now feel so much smaller to fit in other things. And maybe there are pulse phases there. Maybe they're kind of defined E. Maybe. It would be weird if they were, but otherwise they're just dot details.
Yeah. Even the running lights are scaled properly for a smaller ship on the Sabre-runner class. So, oh my goodness. I didn't realize there was as much of a difference. And most people I don't think would. So,
how could you? Yeah. The first contact model of this is the actual original canon versions. This is what they made back in the day before Fabio had to upgrade it and redesign it slightly. Because, the fundamentals are there, but it doesn't necessarily going to hold up. But what have they maybe taken from the original Steamrunner? Yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting question to ask them. Did they go back to the original, or just use Fabio's? Because this doesn't pull anything that I can see. Obviously, Fabio did a good replica, but it's still a bit different. No? Yeah. Interesting. But next, though, is that beautiful other shot we get. And I've sort of done some mimicry of lighting. Anything stand out to you for this?
Again, just the window scale and the escape pod placement for sure.
Very different, yeah.
I do like the Sabre-runner's clustered escape pods on the top part, like a star shape almost, or like a circle, as opposed to... Like, that is just, it's so uniquely different escape pod wise And again, I wouldn't necessarily consider that when I just looked at it the first time. So, and also the bulk of that bridge module. Like, it's so different, yet so much the same. At first glance, you might not even register that it's different.
I'd like to know where the weapons are, the phasers, because you can see on the bottom view there are clear phaser strips on the shoulders. And they're missing. And I don't see any visible phasers of any kind on the entire thing. We know it fired phasers in the episode to create torpedo launchers, but I don't see any phasers. And phasers are just a line of slightly raised, you know, and this is not a new ship. This is going to be classic phaser strips.
Unless, as you said, maybe those things beside the Bizarre Collector on the Sabre-Runner are in fact phaser emitters. Only forward facing, they're not rings, but...
Could be. And they've also I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but they've, again, where the phaser strips would have been on the shoulder, there's a little strip of black, which should be the transporter emitter, the classic yellow emitter. Here's just a black rectangle on top of a yellow rectangle. Transporter emitters are important. But it really does feel smaller when you put it in context. Next shot, though, comparing to the ILM model, not quite as good. Oh dear. And yeah, it's all a bit more muddy. And this has no physical weapons at all, so, you know, this one's unarmed by that logic.
Another big difference between the Steamrunner and the Sabre-Runner is the registry, the way it's pushed back on the actual Steamrunner to like right in front of the bridge module, and here on the Sabre-Runner it's much further forward, and there's a lot less windows and stuff there. It's just the whole center part has been reconfigured somewhat. So
I also don't know what those grill details are meant to be above the registry. They seem very wasteful because they're not from anywhere. You know, the other details are from the original model in a sense, so they have a structure to them that's like, okay, that makes sense. These are like, okay, some grills.
Yeah, if you're not going to put like windows there, that's a perfect place for a small phaser strip. Like,
but the next view is the side. Way more details to see.
And a little bit different as far as the nacelle goes. It's more truncated, like especially the chiller grills for the warp coils are much smaller on the Sabre-Runner. Same kind of configuration shape-wise, and the center pod sticks out much further, like back than it does on the Steamrunner.
I thought I sensed that at the time that it was being pushed back, and it is. This one, the original, is kind of straight down, but that's a cool difference.
And the struts are uniquely different.
Yep. Oh yeah. Very different.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd love to see a top, scaled shot of this. Yeah, I think the engines are just shorter now. Because it does feel like they've just sort of shifted it in a bit. But they are pretty different engines, the way they've structured them. They've taken the idea of it, but every element is unique to this.
Even that bit above the shuttle bay on the Sabre-Runner is not... It's not angled backwards. It's actually quite a different feel.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so similar at the same time. It's like such a great take on a ship.
And you can see on the other... The cannon, Eagle Moss cannon version, that there's two shuttle bays, a la kind of NX-y vibe. Well, Akira than NX. But the scale difference, those doors would be work B sized at best now, and there's no visible lights or anything, or one or two. So there's probably cargo doors, if anything, which is good if it's under half the size. I mean, doors are important and then scale of ship. I mean, they probably don't have any shuttle bay features, I would say.
Well, that's the one thing I probably would have changed doing this Sabre-Runner is make those two doors one door.
Yep.
One longer door to be more of a representative of a shuttle bay.
Yeah, like this barely fits one. The other one, we got two full-sized bays. No problem. I think I vaguely prefer the new nacelles. Just vaguely with some of the grilling detail I quite like. I kind of want to hybridize the two because they're both quite different and interesting.
Mm-hmm. But again, you see actual phaser strips on the back of the Steamrunner and not on the Sabre-Runner. Still no phaser strips visible anywhere.
Well, and especially, my goodness, I mean, the lack of detail on the side of the red bit of the... There's a phaser strip location! You've literally got an open hole, a space. Nope. But that's okay. And then compared to IL... Oh. This thing was meant to be seen from the front. That is a mushy, undetailed mess. You're not meant to see from the back.
Background ship.
Wow, that's... There we go. Oh, and also worth noting... worth noting though, no top warp grills. That was an invention of Fabio to because it was just plating, and he thought add them because it's not. I did go back and check; it's not in the movie, so that was a new invention, which I think is a great idea because just those things at the back is underdone for a warp grill.
It gives you a lot of appreciation for what Fabio actually did to reimagine the Steamrunner. So it does have the glowing elements on the back of the nacelles, which got carried over, but yeah, the top was kind of missing something. Mm-hmm. So
next, you speak of the top, the Wrath of Khan shot. Now this is a very good indicator of differences. Yes, look at that back pod being back swept. See, I knew it. I called it, but I didn't know until I saw it. Look at that.
Mm-hmm. Even the running lights on the rear end of the nacelles, they got pushed more center on the Steamrunner, and here they're kind of on the outside.
And they're pretty giant.
And here you can definitely get a sense of the scale if you look at the windows, because the windows on the Sabre-runner aren't lit up. They are dark. Well, there's a few lit up, but you can see the size difference for sure from the top. So it'd be interesting to get, like you said, like a scale, the Sabre-runner beside the Steamrunner, and we don't know the size, unfortunately. So
I really like that new pod being that much bigger because, and I've worked with the other one a bit. When you do it from the bottom flying over, it's obviously a small pod. Now they've redistributed the sizing. It has a weight to it of in 3/4 views where now, almost like a secondary hull versus a small pod. That I can definitely tell. And pushing it back gives it very slight additional Johnny was looking fast standing still. It gives it a full momentum, even though it's literally pushing back. But that's just how our brain sees, windswept look. Yeah, I really like that. Both valid, but I've kind of just flipped, and they kind of flipped the bridge module round to put, I guess, the briefing room on the front, as you'd said, not on the back. They've really, I'd love to know the design process because they didn't take the same shapes of the Sabre. Steamrunner, they presumably had to design it. I don't know, because look, they're all different. All sides are different.
Yeah.
My brain.
Like what inspired this? I mean, obviously Fabio, to some degree, but
I wonder, did they just build a Steamrunner and then modify it, or did they build it all custom to a different size? It feels so different now. I'm looking at top view. All the shapes just a bit different. And then compared to although these are back swept. Ooh, there's a holdover from the original. The original has a back swept style with a slightly bigger pod. Fabio shrunk the pod and made them not as back swept. Ooh.
It's hard to notice unless you flick back and forth between the two, but yeah, for sure.
And no one has rendered the top like this. Obviously, we did them fresh for this episode, so.
And the original ILM, the detailing on those struts, the shapes and stuff, I think carry over more to the Sabre-runner. Yeah, they're on the Steamrunner, the new one, but I don't know. Something about the ILM one translates better to me. I could be crazy.
I wonder if they even knew that. And also,
well, now they do because maybe they're watching.
And this is a very small thing, but if you look at the way the pylons connect to the base, Fabio had a little black line, which hides the fact they're connecting, and then he made the other bit on the inside of the pylons a separate detail. On the ILM version, it's all just giant rubber stick bit connect. That's really kind of cool to hide that transition point. Interesting. But another view, now this is one where they might have slightly underbaked, because you don't see it from the bottom at any other point really. So this is a side-ish view. That pod's pretty different. The shapes are not the same.
Yep. The Steamrunner actually has round tailpipes, or whatever those are.
Definitely not shuttle bays.
No, not numbered shuttle bays anyway. Those could be doors of some kind.
I say work B bays. I mean, the Sabre is still, the Steamrunner is very, the bottom is lacking, and theirs is too, but very lacking.
Yeah.
If you look at the warp grills on both versions, on the Canon Eaglemoss version, the grills are going sidewards. On the new version, they're going lengthwise. So the coils are in a different arrangement. That was a choice they made. And then compare to the mushy one with no coils whatsoever. And that's a view we really weren't expecting to see in the movie. Although a little bit closer with the pylon feel.
And the shape of the pod.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But they actually put a lot. I've actually never looked at this on the bottom. They put a lot of text detail on the bottom. That's actually pretty heavily detailed. Wow. Good for them. It's actually more detailed. This 20-year-old background model is actually more detailed than the bottom of a model that came out a week ago.
Animated, we should point out.
Indeed. And then, of course, we have this sort of back view, which really was there to highlight, well, I mean, everything in general, but just a different view of it. The impulse engine, smaller, yes. Very much smaller.
But not in relation to the overall shape of the ship, which is a nice choice.
Yeah. And the pod, really different pod. Really, really different pod. I do like that back swept.
As we've talked about many times, even with the Nebula class, I mean, pods are meant to be replaced. They can be mission specific. So, but yeah, different class of ship to get all together. So,
was that? Well, that's the thing. We'd love to know what the purpose of the ship is. How does this shape fit a different role better, smaller? Because that's the question we're asking, right? It's the same design, but all a bit different with subtle differences, just smaller.
Yeah. I really wish they would have just made that like one long shuttle bay at the back, though.
That'd have been really
especially
good.
For the size difference.
That'd been really nice. And of course, the ILM, the mush version as well.
The mush version. Looks like a game model. It looks like a game model. Like, let's be honest.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Still better than game models at the time, but yeah, game model a few years later for sure. But again, watching the movie, it looks like a hero spaceship, just smaller, because they all look great at their distances as they were designed. And ILM's just very good at doing 3D, obviously. But no, I prefer the swept back pylon design. That's a good change. Interesting.
Yeah. Good job, Lower Decks people.
And there's a full comparison breakdown. Look at both iterations. That's how detailed we got here, Stuart. What are your closing thoughts? And do I dare ask a favourite or some such?
Well, I do give the Lower Decks guys credit for not just simply using a Steamrunner, but going out of their way to create a brand new ship, but yet not brand new. It's an interesting take for sure. My favorite, I mean, I would have to say the Steamrunner. Out of all, like, I prefer the Steamrunner because it's a larger ship. I like the saber-runner, but again, I want to see a size comparison, and I want to know the purpose behind the ship. What is its mission profile? What is it designed to do? Why did they just take? And we talk about this all the time. Scaling up the Burrell to a Cavort class. Sometimes just scaling up a simple design to something bigger doesn't actually work logically.
That window's now a
Yeah.
skyscraper. What's going on here? Yes, especially with the bird of prey. There's that little hatch.
Yeah.
How big is that hatch if it's 5 times as big?
Yeah. And there's other designs that do the same thing. Jaeger class, for example, using the Maquis Raider, but like hugely upscaled. Makes no sense, but it's just kept bashing models at the time.
We all condemn the Jaeger.
Yeah, so I mean, I really like the Saber class, or the Steamrunner class. My goodness, but the Saber-runner is a nice addition to the fleet. It's a kind of a nice idea to have, but I want to know the purpose, how it was designed, why it was shrunk down, and like I said, its mission profile.
And why almost no weapons? Because
well, it does fire in the.
It does fire.
Yeah.
But it's a checklist of little things to add. Like, I'm really, really hoping. I thought this earlier. Didn't want to say it. I'm really hoping those little box detail lines in front of the bridge model isn't a phaser, because A, there's not clearing on the sides, you'd hit the ship, so they're poorly designed, and B, that's not what phaser strip looks like, and they know that. So they can't be, and I'm really hoping it's not, in which case there's no phaser strips on the ship. We haven't seen a single one.
Yeah. Well, and if I was designing the ship, going back to that first picture, right below those lower escape pods and above those windows, there's a perfect spot for just a phaser strip on each side.
And in fact, if you were making this a tactical ship, which you could because its profile is so dodgeable, for like a Defiant, right? Make those 2 Bassard side things pulse cannons. That's a big jump in power. And they're obviously connected right into the warp. They're literally in the warp. As a Defiant is, they're right in the warp units. God, I'm getting passionate here. Phaser strip, like you say, below between the escape pods and the windows. Another phaser strip on top. on the pontoon, double those phases, and then you can add them everywhere else. This could be a very powerful forward-facing phaser boat. But of course, that would make Mariner's escape a little bit easier. Just
yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah, so good team at Lower Deck, or good team, good.
Good team, nice house.
Good
team, nice
house.
house.
A good team at Lower Decks, but good work, team. Keep up the good work, and yes, new ships like this we love. We love that kind of thing here at Trekyards. Yeah, and if you do too, please subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell icon so you don't miss any content that we do. Hit the like button and comment down below your thoughts on these comparison shots. Do it.
And if I want to celebrate what we do here, what we do when every new big Trek thing comes out, this sort of analysis, when and if we can. Support us monthly via Patreon. It's the monthly, as I say, donation service. Any amount, 5, 10, 50, 100, 200,000, 5,000, 10,000 a month. Hey, whatever floats your cash boat. Or join the channel on YouTube. Same thing, but not on YouTube or on Patreon. It is the same thing, just different, but the same. Or super chat on any of our lives, discussions, comments, theorizes. We love that interaction with you guys. Or super thanks on any video or any different branch of our channel. Go take a look. Or buy shirts and things down below. Or PayPal, trekyards@hotmail.com. Any amount. Everything just helps us do this show for as long as we can. And we'd like to. So it helps out.
That's right. So until next time, he is Commander Cockings.
He's Captain Foley.
See you later, guys.
Bye, guys.